In the shadow of World War II, in a world desperate for answers, a machine was born. Not just any machine, a giant, a behemoth, a titan of its time. It weighed 30 tons, consumed enough electricity to power a small town, and filled an entire room. But this machine wasn't built to destroy. It was built to create, to calculate, to dream. ENIAC, the electronic numerical integrator and computer, was the first programmable, electronic, general-purpose computer. But it wasn't just a machine, it was a miracle born from the minds of John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert, two visionaries who dared to ask, what if we could build a machine that thinks? On February 14, 1946, ENIAC came alive. It could perform 5,000 calculations per second, a feat that would have taken a human weeks. It was faster, smarter, and more powerful than anything the world had ever seen. But here's the thing. ENIAC wasn't just a calculator. It was a prophet, a glimpse into a future where machines and humans would work together to solve the unsolvable. Just before the end of the Second World War, John von Neumann, an advisor to the ENIAC project, wrote a paper that was to greatly affect the next stage of computer design. Von Neumann possessed a photographic memory and was one of the principal scientists involved in the Manhattan Project. His paper delineated the structure of the modern computer. It was to have a processing unit, control unit, memory, input and output. But most importantly, in the evolution of computers, it would hold its programming internally in its memory. Internally held programs give computer their power and versatility because an internal program can modify what it does based on data or the results of computation.
In this paper, he described the attributes of the computer, how it ought to be organized logically. That is, it needed to have a central processor where the calculations would be performed. It needed to have a memory where the program and data would be stored. It needed to have an output unit, an input unit of some sort. He laid out the logical plan, the map for a computer, and pointed the direction for the future.
Eckert Mauchly formed their own computer company. They set to work on a machine called the UNIVAC, the Universal Automatic Computer, built to solve military and scientific problems. First computer to be mass-produced and sold commercially, and can be programmed for data processing tasks such as payroll, inventory, and billing. Data was stored on magnetic tape drives and results are automatically printed. Very few people stood how useful a computer could be. That perception changed dramatically on election night 1952 when CBS used a UNIVAC to predict the outcome of the presidential race between Dwight Eisenhower and Adlai Stevenson. Opinion polls said the race was too close to call the UNIVAC figured otherwise. Engineers fed the computer early results of selected eastern precincts well before polls closed. In the western states, experts thought it was a tight race, but the UNIVAC predicted a landslide victory. For Eisenhower, even CBS didn't believe what the computer was saying and hesitated reporting the computer's results. But in the end, the UNIVAC was correct. The power and utility of the computer had been proven. After the success of UNIVAC, various companies began to see a future in computer development.
IBM began to realize that computers would become smaller and less expensive and easier to use, and that there would be a place in business for these machines, and that indeed these machines might eventually replace punch card technology, their bread and butter.
By the early 1960s, IBM dominated the large mainframe computer market. Business was becoming dependent on computers, and the machines were getting smaller thanks to the switch from the tube to transistors and a race to the moon was about the computer, smaller still. ENIAC laid the foundation for piece of technology we use today. It showed us that humanity can create something extraordinary.